Hello everyone, Mr. Geislart here, and we're going to be talking today about something called non-square systems of equations. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what is a square system of equations and what is a non-square system. A square system of equations is just where the number of variables equals the number of equations. So in this case, I have two variables, x and y, and I have two equations. That is called a square system. In the example below, we have three variables, u, z, and a, and we have three equations. Anytime you have the same number of variables as equations, that's called a square system. In this case, we have three variables, x, y, and z, but we only have two equations, so that is a non-square system of equations. Okay, now we're going to look at a case where we have infinite solutions. Now, when I look at my RREF, so after I put this in my calculator, do RREF, I'm going to find that this is what the solution will be. Notice that in the bottom, it's all zeros. So that doesn't really tell us much information. It doesn't give us much. In this question, we have the variable r, we have the variable b, and we have the variable s. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this row and I'm going to write it out as an equation. It shows me that I have 1r plus 0b minus 3s, and that's equal to 4. If I want to write an equation with this row, it would be 0r plus 1b plus 2s is equal to 2. Then the last row would give me an equation of 0r plus 0b plus 0s is equal to 0. Now, this last one doesn't really give us much to go on because anytime you multiply 0 by a number, 0 by a number, 0 by a number, it's going to equal 0. So any values of r, b, and s will still give me the answer of 0. So that doesn't help us solve an equation. The next thing I'm going to want to do is see if I can simplify these other equations a little bit. Well, 1r is just r, 0b is just 0, minus 3s is equal to 4, and here 0r is 0, 1b is b, plus 2s is equal to 2. Now, I'm going to notice that s is in both of these equations, so I'm going to solve for r in terms of s, and I'm going to solve for b in terms of s. To do that, I'm going to add 3s to both sides, so I'm going to end up with r equals 4 plus 3s. The next one, I'm going to subtract 2s from both sides, and I get b is equal to 2 minus 2s. So now I can write my answer. Now when we write our answer, we usually start off by writing the general solution. When I write the general solution, I'm going to write it as an ordered triple. So since we have the r listed first, we'll have r, b, then s when I write my triple. So r is 4 plus 3s, b is 2 minus 2s, and s is just s. So when we write this in, remember this is my r, this is my b, this is my s. That's called the general solution. Well, now what if we want to find some specific solutions? So what I can do is I can start off just by letting s equal any number. I'm going to start off by letting s equal 0. If I let s equal 0, then my r is just going to be 3 times 0, 0 plus 4, which is 4. My b will be 2 times 0, so 2 minus 2 times 0, so 2 minus 0 will just be 2. And then s is 0. So that's one solution. I could also put in a 1. If I put in a 1 for s, I would end up with 7, 0, and 1. I could put in a 2 for s, and I would end up with 10 and negative 2 and 2, and so on. So we say there's an infinite number of solutions because I could pick any value I wanted for s and then find what r and b would be, and it would satisfy all these equations. So basically what I'm saying is if I took 4 and replaced it with r, 2 and replaced it with b, and 0 and replaced it with s, I would get these these answers to all of those problems. Now, when we look at this one, again, once you put it in your calculator and do your RREF, you're going to end up with something that looks like this. Now, this is the equivalent of saying 0 is equal to 1. We know 0 is not equal to 1, so there's really nothing more for me to do in this question. Anytime you see that in the bottom row, your answer is just going to be no solution. Okay, now for non-square systems. In a non-square system, you're still going to put it in as a matrix. Now, in your calculator, you're just going to put it in as a 2x4 matrix, and you're still going to do your RREF. In this case, we're going to end up with a RREF matrix that looks like this. Now, notice that there is not a third one down here that just says 0, 0, 0, 0, but it's kind of the same thing. It would be saying that. So what I'm going to do again is I'm just going to write out my equations. Because my variables are x, y, and z, and this is what it equals, it's going to look like this. 1x plus 0y minus 2z is equal to 1, and 0x plus 1y plus 1z is equal to 1. When I simplify this, I'm going to have just x minus 2z is equal to 1. And here we have y plus z is equal to 1. So I'm going to add 2z, I add 2z, and I get that x is equal to 1 plus 2z. Here I'm going to subtract z, and I end up with y equals 1 minus z. So now again, we're going to want to write out the general solution. And if I write that out as an ordered triple, I would have 1 plus 2z, 1 minus z, and then just z. So that would be my general solution. If I wanted to find specific solutions, then I can just go ahead and say what happens when z equals 0. Well, when z equals 0, if I put a 0 in for there, a 0 in there, and a 0 in there, I'm going to get 1, 1, and 0. If I say, well, what happens when z is equal to 1? Well, when z is equal to 1, if I put a 1 there, a 1 there, a 1 there, I end up with 3, 0, 1. And I'll do one more. What if we have z is equal to 2? Well, that's just going to be 5, negative 1, and 2. So again, you can do as many of those as you want. There's an infinite number of solutions to this particular problem. And now we're going to take a look at a word problem that will use these same ideas. It says, Jillian is making dinner for her family. The easiest thing she likes to make is a casserole. She wants to make one that has broccoli, diced potatoes, and diced chicken breast. Her mom says to use a combination of 25 cups of these ingredients and to keep each serving to 1,500 calories. The packages say that 1 cup of broccoli is 25 calories, 1 cup of potatoes is 150 calories, and 1 cup of diced chicken breast is 275 calories. Let X be the number of cups of broccoli, Y be the number of cups of diced potatoes, and Z be the number of cups of dried chicken breast. Create a system of equations and solve it using your calculator. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label my variables. So I'm going to start off by labeling X is equal to broccoli. Actually, it's X is equal to cups of broccoli. Y is equal to cups of potatoes. And Z is equal to cups of chicken. So now we have our variables. So now let's see if we can write an equation. I know that I want the cups of broccoli plus the cups of potatoes plus the cups of chicken to equal 25 cups total. So now what we have to do is look at the calories. I know that there are 25 calories for each cup of broccoli, plus there are 150 calories for each cup of potatoes, plus there are 275 calories for each cup of chicken. And that has to equal 1,500. So now we have a non-square system of equations that we can put in our calculator and get the RREF value for that. So when you put this in your calculator, you're going to get the REF matrix of 1, 0, -1, and 18, and then 0, 1, 2, and 7. So let me write an equation using these two. So we'll have 1x plus 0y minus 1z is equal to 18. And then we'll have 0x plus 1y plus 2z is equal to 7. So if I want to solve this, I'm going to rewrite the equation. So we have x minus z is equal to 18. So if I add z and I add z, I get x is equal to 18 plus z. And here I'm going to have y plus 2z is equal to 7. So I subtract 2z and subtract 2z, and I get that y is equal to 7 minus 2z. Okay, so now we're going to write our general solution. So the general solution is going to be 18 plus z, 7 minus 2z, and then just z. Now, the next question I'm going to ask is, how many possible solutions are there? If this was just a math problem, there would be an infinite number of solutions. But certain numbers won't make sense, mainly negative numbers. You can't have a negative cup of potatoes in your soup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just list all of the possible answers. I'm going to start off by saying that z is equal to 0. If z is equal to 0, that would leave me with 18 cups of broccoli, 7 cups of potatoes, and 0 cups of chicken. Now, that probably wouldn't be a very tasty casserole, but you could do that and it would satisfy this situation. The next one is, what if z is equal to 1? Well, if z is equal to 1, we have 19 cups of potatoes, and now we only have, cups of broccoli, and now we have, 5 cups of potatoes, and we have 1 cup of chicken. So the next one, what if z is equal to 2? Well, then we'll have 20, 3, and 2. Notice that they all have to add up to 25. What if we had 3? Then that would be 21, 1, and 3. And what if we had z is equal to 4? That would be 22, -1, and 4. Now, here's what I was talking about before. We know that this mathematically will work. That adds up to 25, it satisfies all my conditions, but it doesn't make sense to have a -1 cup of something, so I'm going to stop there. So the answer here is that there are 4 different solutions that are possible, and each one of these answers over here is one of those possible solutions.